We are back with another local band series. We had a few rough spots in this episode with recording cutting out a couple of times, but we made it through. This week, Kyle decided to step up his Texas game and bring us the band Fortunes TX. They dropped a great new EP back in March this year called A New Era of Violence. We talk about how this would have been a band back in our high school days that we would have rode around blasting as loud as we could, annoying everyone around us in our hometown, and how fun it would have been to see these guys live. Next up, we're back in New Jersey with a fantastic post-hardcore band, Plead the Widow's Cause. This is another one of those bands that it just scratched the nostalgic itch for us with their album Pain Split. Then it opened up into a discussion about how much passion and intent you have to write these kind of songs. Both of these bands, two different styles, but both incredible in their own ways. You should definitely check them out. Let's open this pit up. Somebody hit somebody! What's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast with me, Trevor, and I've got Kyle again with me this week. What's up?
I've got Kyle again. I'm always here, except for the 2 times, man.
It wasn't 2 times, man.
it was literally only 2 times. So
well, I've got you back, and we got a new episode coming out. We're back on locals. I'm excited for this. We haven't done a local episode in 6 episodes, 5 or 6 episodes. It's been a minute. Yeah.
And I feel like we've discovered some really good local bands to the point where, like, I think we kind of struggled finding who to talk to, like we just have so many people we want to talk about.
Yeah.
That's a good problem to have,
We definitely have a backlog. And so we're going to have to get a couple more of these out. I think we've got a pretty good cadence, though. It seems like we're on track to kind of do a local episode, to do an interview, and then to do an old band. And so hopefully we continue to cycle through like that. If people are out of town is when we'll tend to do one or the other a few other times and stuff like that. Like we had a couple interviews in a row, and we might have a few more of those mixed in the way. But
yeah.
Which is, again, another weird thing that's happened is people actually want to talk to us.
I know. Like
they shouldn't.
Fans have reached out to us and been like, hey, man, like, can we jump on? And there's a guy that we're going to be interviewing here in the next little bit that we have actually talked about his band on this podcast. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, he offered it. Like, we didn't even have to ask. And I'm just like, why though?
Right.
Have you seen us or heard us at all? Like, why? I promise you have better things to do.
I mean, like, here's the thing. And this is the cool thing about the metal, the hardcore, the scene that we tend to talk about, right? Is that these people just love music. They like talking about it. They enjoy talking about their projects, other projects. They enjoy sharing their stories. It's awesome. Hardcore is the best community out there in terms of a music scene, and I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. There's no better community than the hardcore community. So
I totally agree with that. So, we got cool stuff coming up. Make sure you guys stay tuned.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into it, any new music? Any new tours?
Well, I did go to Koyo and One Step Closer and Anxious last week. So
yeah, that's right. Talk about that.
It was cool. All right. So
come on, man.
Yeah. First of all, it was super late. Show started at like 9:00, and I saw that on the ticket, and I like messaged the bands, and I was like, "Bro, One Step Closer was the only one that responded back to me because I was like, bro, why is this so late?" And they were like, "Yeah, we don't know. This sucks." But it's my first time going to this venue. It was outside. It's in like the back courtyard of this area, I guess. And it was sweet though. Maybe they started later, so it wouldn't be 150 degrees and people dying of heat stroke. That might be part of it. There was also another show going on next door. Have you ever heard of, what are they called? Soft Cult?
I haven't, but I did see. I think it was Koyo posted that they stopped by the show and watched some of it.
Yeah. So there's this new term. I'm going to sidetrack us here for a second, and then I'm going to come back to the show. There's this new genre or term called emo violence.
Oh yeah,
Did I miss that? What is that?
I think the only reason I know about it is because of our friend Chris. He's
Okay.
into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen him post some stuff about bands like he may have even posted about Soft Cold specifically. So maybe that's where I heard their name.
Maybe.
But
I mean,
yeah,
it's not for me, like they were selling merch and they had like the white, the white mannequin heads, but they had
yeah.
painted like black, like almost death metal, but not like, the emo goth stuff. And I'm just like, man, I'm all right. I'm good. you
You know
know,
what? I haven't listened to it. I'll have to hit up Chris and ask
I
for
didn't
some
hear the music at all.
recommendations.
Yeah. I didn't hear their music at all because it was like walled off. So I couldn't hear
Yeah.
anything. I don't know if they're good or bad. That is not what I'm saying. I've never heard that genre before. I guess I missed that. And I saw some stuff that like looks like you'd see it in your nightmares, and I'm good, you know?
I
I'm all right.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So it was the Anxious One Step Closer Koyo show. Did Price
Yeah.
Horse play?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so they
They
did
are
open.
they're way better live. I'm just gonna say that. I'm not huge into this like shoegaze, like heavy shoegaze grunge type stuff, Like but they were cool live. It was worth seeing live. I
Sure.
listened to the music before and I wasn't a fan of it, but seeing them live, I was like, oh, they're cool.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's how I felt when I was listening to them in prep for the show that I didn't end up going to. Is I was like, I'll listen to it, but I mean, it wasn't my favorite kind of
Yeah.
thing.
So, not a lot of people for them, which is understandable. But then up after that was One Step Closer, and they're incredible live, dude. They're so good, but I just wasn't the crowd for it. Like, I don't know. I feel like this show, what I'm learning about the scene here is people actually like to dance and mosh, but
Okay.
but I don't see a lot of like pile on really packed shows, type of stuff. And so,
Interesting.
they kept doing the like, hey, everyone come closer, but then people would mosh and a couple people just like got laid out. And it's like, you can't tell people to come closer. And then like these people get hit and then they don't want to stand that close. So they don't do it. So
Oh, I gotcha. So it
like
was
what?
like everyone moved forward, but then it started to horseshoe again, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. But the stage was like really high and it wasn't packed enough. And dude, uh, I'll get to it in a second, but people are insane because the stage was high and it wasn't packed, and there were stage divers. And dude, I don't get it. But anyway, so after One Step Closer was super cool. I want to see them again, just in a better environment because I'm sure the show would be a lot more fun. Um, Anxious was really cool. Feels like there were more people for Anxious. Um, they're incredible live. They just have a ton of energy, and their songs are super fun. And he's funny, up on stage. And people started stage diving for them. And dude, it's not packed, man. And like, I was standing like front to the right, and I'm like had my hand on the stage, and was like singing and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just look, this dude climbs up, runs, jumps, and he front flips off the stage
Oh
and
gosh.
just kicks like four people in the head and then just slams on the ground, dude. And it was like one of the guys that he kicked is like was like holding his nose. I'm pretty sure he like busted up his nose. I'm not laughing at that because that sucks. I just like, what was this guy thinking? Like, what are you doing? There's nowhere near enough people for you to not only like not stage dive, but to just front flip off of there. Like, dude, I just sat there. I turned back and looked at my wife, and we just started laughing
How
because it
much
was
do you
like,
want to
there's
bet
no one
he
there.
How much you want to bet he had like his girlfriend or something filming him? He's like, film this. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna front flip, and we're gonna post it.
Dude, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm all for stage diving, but like he landed on like 3 people only, and then
Oh
just
my
fell
god.
right to the ground. Dude, it was I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Oh my
Anyways,
gosh.
then Koyo came out and they're just so dang good.
Yeah.
Like they're just so good. Like they sound so good live and they're super energetic and they get into it and it was a blast. They're so good live. So,
So I kind of wonder this, and I love all three of those bands. I love One Step Closer. I love Anxious. I love Koyo. But I almost wonder if it would be better to separate them and put them on hardcore bills
yeah.
so that you get that packed venue, stage diving, moshing, all of that kind of stuff. Having the three of them together, it turns into more of the sing along type of
Mhm.
atmosphere. Especially from watching like your videos and stuff, it seemed like more people were there to like sing
Yeah.
and to kind of vibe and
Yeah.
that kind of feeling.
Well, it was really interesting because I saw Koyo, what was it, last year or the year before with No Pressure.
Yeah,
And it was a smaller venue, so it felt a lot more packed. Like people could actually stage dive and not die.
yeah.
Um, so I don't know if I wonder if like the same amount of people I think were there, maybe just the venue was a little more open, so it didn't feel like that. But I felt bad because like all these bands were telling people to scoot up and telling people to do stuff, and it's like, if it's 3 bands that don't have super heavy breakdowns, like you're not going to bring out all the hardcore kids that just want to fight people. You know what I mean? And I mean
Right,
fight is in the good way, like the moshing, right?
right, right.
Um, but it's also not pop punk enough or punk enough, like the No Pressure show was, that you're going to bring out like people. It's just all you're right. Like all 3 of them, you felt like you were kind of in this weird, like middle ground
Because
type
I
thing.
watched all of your videos because you sent over a bunch, right? Like we
Yeah.
only posted one of each band, but you sent over a bunch, and it just seemed like that was the vibe that I got watching from like the back, walking forward. Is it seemed like more people were there just to like sing along, and maybe it was
Yeah.
because the stage was too high, maybe it was because there was enough space that people could get out of the way
And
and
because it was
stuff.
9 o'clock.
Maybe it was too late, but it seemed like they would have benefited from having a really heavy band with them to amp up that energy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And see,
So
that's why I think Koyo, like seeing like their set was way better because I think they were like fast enough and heavy enough to get more people moshing. You know what I mean?
yeah,
More people doing stuff. Whereas like I don't I think you and I might be a little biased. Like if you're fans of Anxious or fans of Koyo, like if you didn't know One Step Closer was on this tour, like would you really be a fan of them? Especially like their new album, maybe, but their first album, not so much.
their new album I feel like has really set them up for success. That new album's fantastic, and
It's
it's
incredible.
actually heavy in parts too.
Yeah, but I like they played a song that they played like 2 songs that had breakdowns. That was it.
Yeah,
And so like if you don't have enough people to pile on and sing along, it's hard, right? Cuz then it
yeah,
just feels boring and you can't like you can't crowd kill to that, you know?
right.
So like and that was I think the difference with Koyo is I think people were there to see Koyo, so they knew the lyrics, so people could go up and sing and get up front and have more fun.
Sure.
But like One Step Closer just didn't feel like that. And what
I
what
will
also
say
but
what
the other thing is like they kept calling out, they're like, this one's for Texas hardcore. And it's like, dude, you guys are not like I get it. You're from the hardcore scene, but this is not a hardcore show, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they should have brought a hardcore band with them or something, or had like a local hardcore band open.
That would
Like
have
I
been
think
yeah.
that would have been dope. So
It
okay,
was good though. It was worth seeing them. I will. Koyo said that they're going to come play again. That they're going to go on tour again in the fall, but they said that it'll be a bigger venue. So I
mm,
wonder if they're making a run with like a larger. hardcore band or something.
That could be
You know?
cool. I mean, there's been a few announcements recently. Um, so we'll have to see what else comes out. Cause I mean, like, Hatebreed's already on tour. I think I just saw Terror's going to be in Europe
You're
the
up.
last part of the year. The tour that got announced today was Dying Wish, Pain of Truth, Balmora, and who was the fourth band? It was someone else I was way excited to see too.
Well, Dying Wish
Out of Pocket.
out of pocket. Did you say
Out of
Dying
Pocket.
Wish? Okay.
Yeah, Dying Wish, Pain of Truth, Out of Pocket, and
Yeah.
Balmora.
See, my concern about that tour is it's like a day or two after we get back from Furnace Fest,
Yeah, I
and
get like a week. So,
I just don't know that I'll be able to walk.
dude,
Actually,
just suck it
if I
up, bro.
can walk, if I can't, let's just put it this way: if I can go to this show, then I didn't do Furnace Fest good enough. So
That's kind of a valid point. It's kind of
I
a valid point, but also go stand in the back, man. Like
can't. I have
it's
no self
worth seeing.
discipline. I have
So,
no self discipline. I can't do it.
okay. So back to what we were saying. Dude, I'm super pumped for it. Unfortunately, they are playing though in a 21 and older venue here in Salt Lake. And dude, it's just not the right space for these types of shows. Like, this is where I saw Gideon and No Cure. Number one, the crowd that comes through isn't the right crowd for these kind of shows. It turns into much more push pits. And then
Mm,
the few people who are there to dance, like, there's alcohol being served and stuff. And it doesn't work out so well. So there's a lot of people posting online and being like, guys, move the venue. It needs to be all ages. So I'm really curious if they are able to find something or make
find
something
somewhere else.
happen.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
the venue they're playing in Dallas is the same one I saw Drain at. So
Which that was
eh,
an okay venue, right?
yeah, it was fine. It was fine. So I don't
It's a
know.
little
We'll see how I'm feeling after
it's a little
Furnace
bit
Fest.
bigger. Isn't that
It
one a
is
little bit
bigger.
bigger?
Yeah, and it's got those like stupid linoleum type floors, and so if
Mm,
it gets way slippery and stuff, and that's the only bad part. So
huh. That's annoying. New music. There I didn't see a ton of new music. Did you listen to the new 4 Year Strong? Bad
I haven't listened to
Habits?
the whole. No, I haven't listened to the whole album yet.
Not the whole album, just the new song. The whole album doesn't come out for like
Yeah, no,
another
I
week or
listened to the
so.
new song. Okay.
I thought that new song was great. They are really pushing this like 90s alternative, like it's just like a heavy 90s sound
Yeah.
mixed with like their style. It's going to be a cool album. It is going to be different. I don't know if I've heard another band put something like this out. It's
Yeah.
going to be a different
I don't
take.
know either. I've liked outside of the one, and even the one song. There's one song that I'm not a huge fan of, but I still like. But I've liked all the stuff they've put out so far.
Yeah.
It's different, but it still
Yeah.
sounds like them, even though it's different, which I'm cool with.
I think it's going to be cool to get a whole album of this because you started to get some of this fill in Brain Pain. And for them to go full like 90s style with this, it's going to be a cool album. So I'm way
Yeah.
excited. The other one, I sent you a song by a new band called Badmouth. The song's called Gag. One of the dudes, the reason I saw it was on Twitter. One of, I don't even know who he is, whether it's the guitarist or vocalist or whatever he is, but he plays in Momentum, Vamakara, Twist of Cain. It's another hardcore band, right? But whoever this guy is, whatever he puts out, keep putting out hardcore because you're doing it right.
It's
Like,
working.
it's a dope song. Like,
Yeah,
I'm actually really excited to see what else comes from it.
that's cool. So there's a band down here in Texas called Die Young,
Okay.
and I'm pretty sure it's got the drummer from Will to Live in it.
Oh, sick. Yeah.
They've got like 3 or 4 albums, old school Texas hardcore band, you know. They're freaking good. If you guys haven't listened to Die Young, go listen to them. But they just announced that they're in the studio writing new
Oh,
stuff.
sick.
So I'm like super pumped for it because yeah, they're their first few albums or whatever are really, really freaking good. So
Well, that's sick.
yeah,
Well, let's jump into this. Local bands.
yeah.
Do you want to kick us off since we're in Texas right now with Die Young?
Let's do it. So the band that I'm talking about today. Hold on 1 second. All right, the band that I'm talking about today is called Fortunes, or Fortunes TX. I don't really know, but they're from San Antonio, and actually they started out in 2012, and then had a bunch of member changes, went on like a hiatus and stuff, um, and then re-picked it up back in 2019, where they get to release, I think, their first EP demo album EP, which is just called Fortunes. Um, they just released new music this year, another 6-song EP called A New Era of Violence. And I'm trying to learn and find more of these Texas bands. Um, I saw a clip of these guys because they did a run with Cro-Mags when Cro-Mags came through
Sick.
Texas.
Yeah.
So they did, I want to say like 2 or 3 dates with them,
Okay.
through Texas. And yeah, so I started listening to them, and it's really cool, and it's a really interesting sound because it's not deathcore. It has, I think, some element. It reminded me a lot of like Sewn Shut from Utah, right? One of the local band that we talked about. It's like
Sure.
a good amalgamation of like metal and hardcore. Sometimes it sounds beat downy, other times it sounds deathcore, other times it's like really cool 2-step. I don't know. It
Yeah.
just something really stuck out to me. I really like their vocals, their guitar tones. Whoever did their drum recording on this last album was incredible because it just like the double bass and stuff. Like I was listening to it in my car. I could like feel it, like the double bass like hitting me, and it was like, I don't know. It sounds so clean and stuff. So what did you think of these guys? And did you listen to everything?
Oh yeah. So I listened to everything. I actually think that first one, that 2019, I think that's an EP of some of their older songs because I found their Bandcamp and like F City, Hustle and Defend. It looks like those were actually released like 2013, 2014. So I think they
Okay.
put everything together,
Hmm.
labeled it their Fortunes EP, and then probably just released it on Spotify in 2019. Maybe that's what happened.
Yeah.
So I think that these songs have actually been around for a minute now because the next one, Eternal Hustle, I was listening to an interview with them and they said these were actually songs written in 2015, but then they just remastered, remixed them, and put them out in 2020.
Okay.
So a lot of this stuff has been around for a minute and they went on hiatus in 2020 or 2021, give or take, somewhere right in there, uh, is when they were starting to kind of hang it up. But I agree with you. I think that it's a really cool sound. Take three.
Take 3.
Where
Oh man, this is
what
gonna cost us a bunch of money.
what was the last thing that you heard?
I don't know.
Okay.
It
Well, I'll
was very
just.
reminiscent of the Texas stuff that we're listening to right now.
Oh, okay. Um, did you hear me say that I feel like his vocal sounds a lot like Rob from Will to Live? It's like a heavier version,
Yeah.
but the way that they like say things, the way that they phrase things, like I don't know if it's the Texas in them or what it is, but it kind of like trails off the same. And he has a heavier vocal. I'm not saying like you're going to be like, oh, that could be Rob or that could be
Right.
uh I don't remember unfortunately the guy's name, but I just feel like they sounded similar just in like their phrasing and stuff like that. Different tones, but similar in phrasing. Um, for me personally, though, I liked Eternal Hustle more than I liked
A New
A
Era of
New Era
Violence.
of Violence. What did you like between the two?
I liked A New Era of Violence more.
Okay. That surprises me
Why?
because Eternal Hustle feels more metallic to me. It feels more like metallic hardcore. There's more metal guitar riffs in there versus A New Era of Violence is a very heavy beatdown
Mhm.
album. Which, listen, dude, I love heavy beatdown. Like,
Yeah.
I've been really into heavy beatdown, but there was something you talked about the drums in A New Era of Violence. The drums in Eternal Hustle are incredible. Like, you start off with War Cloud. I just think back to your Grand Am when we used to drive around. Could you imagine pulling up next to
Yeah,
someone? The
dude.
doors would just be shaking
I know.
nonstop off of those drum patterns. It is so heavy and it is so sick. Like, I listening to these guys, I was like, man, I want to be 16-year-old Trevor and Kyle again. I want to be scaring the crap out of Davis
Yeah.
County, Utah, with just pulling up, feet out window, and just the car shaking
Yeah.
like the stupid stuff we used to do. You know what I mean?
No, dude. I mean, absolutely. And what's cool is like, I don't know. I feel like with some of the beatdown bands, it gets very repetitive, monotonous. It gets very, I don't want to say cliche, but it's like you, it's very like it's what you expect. Like it just is what it is. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Almost, I don't want to say boring because some beatdowns fun, but like I feel like what they did with A New Era of Violence was like it's beat down, but it's fresh. It's more metally. I don't know, but it's not because I started thinking about like Zabalba when I was listening to him a little bit, but Zabalba gets like really doom metal.
Okay.
But these guys don't really go that, but they're not fast, so they're not thrash. I don't know. It's like this is what the natural progression of metalcore should have become, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because it really is a great mix of like metal and hardcore because it's very hardcore influence, but they still have metal riffs. And one thing that's funny, did you watch the Moshumentary
Yeah.
and Stanley Severs? You know, they talk about how a band like plays a riff and then they just slow the riff down.
Yeah.
He's all, then I started moshing and he's like, then they slowed it down even more.
Yeah.
And like, dude, like Fortunes does that on a couple of their songs. I want to say Day After Day. It's like a
Okay.
fast two-step riff, and then it goes right into like it's like the same riff, but it's just really slow. And I'm just like, oh, dude, like
Right.
I would throw a chair at someone right now. You know what I mean? Like it's so good, and there's so much like richness to his vocals.
Yeah.
He's got this really rich, it's not like a growl, it's not low, like guttural. It's just this really rich, deep scream that doesn't bother me. Like we talked about the Black Dahlia, sometimes the really low stuff that he did, it's like too death metal, but his
Yeah.
isn't. It's just a really low, rich scream, but it's not a death metal guttural. And I'm totally down with it, dude. It
Yeah.
like it hits right on the nail for me.
Yeah. No, it's definitely just that deeper hardcore vocal.
Yeah.
So it's solid. I agree. Overall, like I just like again, I want to be like 16-year-old, 17-year-old punks who just want to go throw down. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was so fun to like listen to this kind of music and show up to shows and just, mosh crazy, right?
Yep.
It was always so fun for that. And
So
these guys are
uh,
putting it back.
yeah, they've got let's see, they're playing like a slam fest in Corpus Christi in August. They've got they're doing a like what is this? A benefit show in tomorrow, which would be the 25th, but this is going to come out after that. But yeah, they're just doing a bunch of local stuff. They're playing like a closed casket type show, or I guess they already played that. Um, But the San Antonio scene's like popping off right now. Like it's going crazy. And there's a lot of really good bands. And I think these guys have a real good chance of, doing something with it. I mean, to play multiple dates with Cro-Mags when they come through Texas is a big deal,
Yeah.
So
No, for sure. I think is this this was in June. I was gonna say they just played with Hoods, and
Oh,
Brick by
that's who it was.
Rick.
Sorry. It wasn't I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. It wasn't Cro-Mags, it was Hoods that they played multiple dates with.
That's
I'm an
a
idiot.
pretty big difference, bro.
Yeah, I know it is. I know it is. And the reason why, so the reason why I'm getting that mixed up with is I found this thrash band from Sweden yesterday.
Okay.
And they were talking about how they'd played with Cro-Mags in Europe. I
Uh
had Cro-Mags on my brain. It was with Hoods. They
Hoods.
played like 2 to 3 dates in Texas with Hoods
Hoods
recently.
and Brick by Brick. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep, 100%. So my
Nah,
bad, guys. My
it's
bad.
way dope. Uh oh, dude, that Corpus Christi, that has Rose Funeral on it. Rose Funeral, sick. Do you remember
Yeah.
those guys? Oh, dude, that would be a sick show. I haven't listened to Rose Funeral in a long time, but
I mean, I can't read the other band names. Come on, guys.
no, for sure. Overall, I think that they're a good band. I enjoy this style though. Like I like beatdown. I like heavy hardcore. But for some reason, I don't know what it was, that eternal hustle, it just it hit so good for me. Like,
yeah, dude, War Cloud is so good.
War Cloud is so good. And then the other song, Sink or Swim,
Sink or Swim,
like
yeah.
you get to like 2 minutes and 30 seconds in and listen to that breakdown. It's you just have to listen to it. But there's another band we listen to. I can't remember who it is, but they almost start the breakdown the exact same way. And it's the same thing. It starts in your left ear and then it goes to your right ear and then it goes to the breakdown. And it's just one of those things where every time it happens, it's just like, oh, there it is. There's the breakdown.
You get a physical reaction.
You get the physical reaction.
And you get more than just goosebumps, if you know what I mean. That's how good that breakdown is. All
right. For real. So we'll see. Yeah, check these guys out. Fortunes TX. Last one is A New Era of Violence. But again, listen to all three. It's 45 minutes of your time.
Yeah.
Go get it done. Yeah. So next band we're talking about. This is a band that we've been saying we were going to talk about for a long time. And we're finally doing it. Plead the Widow's Cause. They're from South Jersey. These guys, one EP, but from what I can tell, several of the members have been playing together for like 12 plus years in different projects and different bands.
So are 8 songs considered an EP, or you just call that an album?
If you're No Bragging Rights, it's an EP.
Yeah.
If you're anyone else, it's an album.
Yeah. I'm just saying, because like I don't want people to go look for an EP when they miss this amazing album. So
the other thing too is it's called Pain Split. It's just Plead the Widow's Cause. It's not a split with some other band. So like it's just them. But these guys started, I think 2020, 2021. And then they put this album out at the beginning of 2022. Obviously, it was when COVID was happening, kind of thing. From what I could tell, it took them a minute to record this just because of everything that was taking place. But it's interesting. So they label it as spirit-filled post-hardcore. They're a Christian band. Their name is derived from a verse in the Bible. And it to me, it borders the line of melodic hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the very first songs, or the first song, Disrespect for a Voice Unheard. If you take that opening guitar riff and that's the direction you go with it, this is a melodic hardcore band. not a post-hardcore band. They're
Yeah.
melodic hardcore. But the interesting thing is they will throw then those post-hardcore clean singing parts. They'll throw in the guitar riffs that instead of picking up the tempo, they'll slow it down just a little bit. And dude, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think?
No, I love it, and I feel like it's a heavier. They're only chasing safety,
Yeah.
and I really like it. You know, um, it's very post hardcorey, but it's like such a good like such a good easy listen. You know, I don't know how to put it, but it's yeah, it's just if they're only chasing safety was a tad harder and less clean singing.
Exactly. So you get a lot more of the heavy vocals. You still get cleans in there, but you do get more of the heavy vocals. It's based on heavy vocals as opposed to clean vocals, where they're only chasing safety. It was a pretty even split. I feel like the high points of they're only chasing safety were Aaron's cleans, though, right? The high points on this one to me are the heavy vocals.
Yeah,
So it's, that's a little bit of the difference there.
it's dude, it's a sound that brought me back to like MySpace days, but not as emo, right?
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
it very much. And we were talking about this today, and I was joking that like I wonder if the reason why these guys haven't made it huge yet is because this sound just hasn't come around back around yet. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like if they had dropped this album in like 2009, 2010, they'd be massive. You know,
See, I think it has to be earlier than that. I,
okay.
I think this would have had to have been like 2003 to 2005.
Oh, really?
Because 2006, we get Define the Great Line. And I think Define the Great Line was the switch that it was like, we're going towards metalcore
Yeah.
now. So I think that this album, I think it's right where you said. I think it is very involved with uh they're only chasing safety. A lot of the post-hardcore albums that were coming out at that time. I think that this would fit well in like a burden of the day.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
Like burden of the day. I'd even say before their eyes kind of thing.
Mm.
Like it's right in that range there.
A
So
little heavier though, right?
it is heavier. It
A
is
tad
a
heavier.
heavier thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, like, it could have been played with Define the Great Line, but it actually would have been a little bit of the relief of Define the Great Line, in my opinion. You know,
Dude,
I,
the burden of a day call out, like spot on, dude.
yeah,
Like it's a heavier burden of a day,
dude,
which is
I,
yeah.
I love Burden of the Day. So, absolutely. I think that this is a fantastic album. It's interesting that I'm going back to the melodic hardcore thing, though, because you listen to a song like Spirits Away, and it's like straight hardcore at times. So I was listening to an interview that they had done, and the bass player, I think it was the bass player, said that it's basically the vocalist and the bass player who write the majority of the music for the band. I think that those are the two that have known each other the longest. They're the ones who have been together for like 12 years across a couple different bands, kind of thing. And he was saying that he's much more into like straight hardcore kind
Mm.
of sounds. Like he name dropped, he's like, I was listening to a lot of Bane. I was listening to a lot of Have Heart. I was listening to a lot of Strong Arm, stuff like that when he was writing his parts of it. And I
Yeah,
feel like the song Spirits Away is like a direct reflection
yeah.
of that hardcore coming through.
Well, that breakdown in Spirits Away, it's funny that it's the bass player doing a lot of that because I feel like that's a pretty good quality of like hardcore in general is that the bass is very defined in
Yeah,
the music, right? And you hear the breakdown in what's the song name? I just said it. Spirits
Spirits
Away.
Away.
Yeah. You hear the breakdown and it's very like you can very much hear the bass in it, but that's a very hardcore feeling breakdown, you know?
Yeah.
It's really cool. So yeah, no, I totally hear that.
So this is one thing between these two bands that we're talking about, okay? And listen, I am not knocking Fortunes at all, okay? Because I love the sound. I feel like you can write an album like Fortunes and really not have emotion behind it. Like your emotion behind it is, I want to see a kid punch another kid in the face,
Yeah.
right? I don't feel like you could ever write this type of album without having passion behind your lyrics, passion behind the riffs, and things along those lines. Like the passion's different. It's about the music. It's about the message, as opposed to, man, I just want to see some chaos.
Yeah. And we need
Like,
both.
yeah,
This is why like I feel like what you and I do is why I've had so much fun doing this is because like there's a time and a place to listen to Fortunes, right? Like sometimes I just want like super heavy in your face, like I'm gonna go mosh as hard as I can type music, and I
yeah,
just that's just what I want. Like there's times where I want to hear that, but then there's other times where it's like, I'm just sitting down, like looking out my window, and I don't know that I want to punch a hole through my window, like but I
right.
still want to listen to something that is adjacent to hardcore, which like this is why this is all so important, because this is why Plead the Widow's Cause is so important. Is like, there's got to be music for every feeling, and I
Exactly.
get what you're saying. So
Exactly. And I feel like it was like a good time to talk about like these two types of genres like in a thing together. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because, and again, I'm not saying that Fortunes doesn't have passion. I'm not saying that their music doesn't have emotion or feeling behind it, right? But you could write just BS lyrics. In all honesty, like you could just write BS lyrics,
I mean,
have a sing along or something like that, and you would, a lot of people would feel the same about their
yeah,
lyrics.
I mean most beatdown is like that. I mean, there's a band called Tsunami that literally started as a joke, and then we're like, oh, people like this, let's do it for real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I no, absolutely. And now like I mean, we're not talking about Fortunes because I read through about how, their lyrics are directly about what it was like
Yeah.
being poor, and I
Absolutely.
understand that. And you know what? Like coming from a place like that, when you are poor and you look around and see people that have it, and it probably pisses you off where you're like, yeah, I do want to throw a chair through a window.
Right.
Write that music. Plead the Widow's Cause is going to have different emotion, different meaning, different stuff that they're talking about, Christian or not, right? I think this
Right.
music in general lends itself to that. I mean, you could say that about a lot of these post-hardcore or melodic hardcore bands. Lyrically, they're different, and that's fine.
Right.
You know?
Well, I mean, we just talked about no bragging rights, right? You talk about no bragging rights, who talks about mental health. You talk about like a counterparts. Like, let's be
Yeah.
honest, there's that counterpart song where he's singing about his cat, and it's
Yep.
about the most gut-wrenching lyrical content you could think of, right?
Yeah.
It's just like it's it is meant to drive your emotions to the forefront versus the beatdown style is
It's
meant
about
to
anger.
make you angry. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just different. It's different that way. But it's just, it was interesting to me to be like, you have to really commit to this style of music, I feel like. And you have to really be thoughtful about your lyrical content and everything like that versus you can make a joke beatdown band.
Right.
There are the bands who are doing it and talking about social issues. They're talking about poverty. They're talking about like really important things. I'm not saying that there aren't those bands, but you also can say, F the world, F you, middle fingers up. We're just going to punch each other,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's just different.
It's
It's
almost
really
like,
interesting.
yeah, it's almost like bands like Plead the Widow's Cause, um, like it has to work, right?
Yeah.
Like the emotion has to work. Your lyrical content has to work. It has to hit with people, because if not, you're just going to sound like a whiny band.
If you get too cheesy, I'm turning you
Yeah.
off.
Right. Right. If it
Yeah.
doesn't hit, if it doesn't land, if your lyrics and your music don't land, it doesn't work. Whereas like beatdown, like you just
It's,
slow it really down and just yell, and you've
and
made a beatdown band. And
give me a gang vocal that I
yeah,
can come chant with you and we're
right.
good, man.
And not to, and again, I hope that people have listened to us enough to understand that we are in no way talking crap on beatdown. We love it.
Yeah.
right? We mosh as much as the other guys. Like we are right there, but there's different music for different times for different meanings, and that's okay. You know,
Right.
that's
Right.
okay.
So, right
That's a
before Plead,
good point. I just want to, I don't like give you credit enough. That's a good point. Trevor.
what can I
Good
say?
for you.
I got into my emotions today. I actually thought about this episode for a minute. So, uh, right before they started Plead the Widow's Cause, they had a band called Harvey Cedars, which was a lot more like alt rock, more into the post hardcore realm. I felt like I actually really enjoyed it. There's an EP on Spotify as well that you can listen to. I think it's a 5 song or 6 song
Hmm.
EP. So it's worth your listen to Harvey Cedars also. But in listening to the interview, they decided to change the name and go this direction because they wanted to get heavier and because they wanted to incorporate some of that hardcore feel to it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that they succeeded. I think that I don't feel like that this album should have been under the Harvey Cedars name. I think that it was appropriate for them to change. I feel like they accomplished their goal in
Yeah.
stepping up the heaviness of it. So
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. And I think they've got new music coming out, right?
that's my understanding. It sounds like maybe September, October kind of time. I think we're going to find out more here. They've been posting on like Instagram and stuff, doing some updates. They've been recording and things. So my guess is probably within the next couple of weeks, we'll probably start to see some updates about when to expect
Yeah.
some new music,
I mean, the
which
next couple of
it's going to be
weeks, there
dope.
might even be news dropped on the
You
Pit
never
Therapy
know.
podcast, Just saying, people need to tune in for cutting news. All right.
I don't know if they're going to make it through 3 takes of this episode. So we'll have to
Probably not.
see. But no, overall, I think both bands are fantastic. Again, these guys are from South Jersey. You totally get the Northeast feel.
Absolutely.
Freaking post hardcore in the Northeast is where it's at. There's not really bands who do it as good as that. Maybe
Yeah.
Thrice, but you
It's
know,
true. Yeah.
there's not
They're,
there's not a lot of them.
yeah.
So
So no, dude, cool band. Excited to see what happens with them. I honestly like, and it's like this for every band. And obviously, this is just recency bias. But the two bands we talked about tonight, like they're just freaking good.
yeah,
Like they're quality musicians. They've got their own sound. I feel like they've got stuff figured out. They're just it's just quality music. This isn't us like falling in love with a local band just because of something. This is like these guys are genuinely good bands, both of them.
no, and we talked about it. We listen to multiple locals before we settle on who we're going to talk about, and these guys stood apart. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we have a list of other bands to talk about, but it was the right time to talk about these bands. So check them out. You had Fortunes TX, and then you have Plead the Widow's Cause. Pain Split is Plead the Widow's Cause album. It's 8 songs, 24 minutes. It's great. It has one of those, if you are into like the Christian emotion thing, true love at the end has a very uh, is it spoken word? It has like one of those kind of
Mhm.
ambient parts where it, is talking to you about that kind of stuff. So, you know, I think that these guys are both dope.
Yeah.
Great
I do
bands.
too. I do too.
So
They made my playlist.
there you go. Which at some point we should probably put out to the world, but
Nah,
maybe
dude, I'm
not.
embarrassed by like half of it. So
Sick. Well, after this one, I think we do have another interview dropping, and then we'll probably pick another old school band to talk about again. We might change it up a little bit. We will be going to Furnace Fest, so maybe we'll have to like pick a couple bands off Furnace Fest and talk about like specific albums or something like that.
yeah,
I think that might be pretty dope, especially with like August Burns Red announcing playing Constellations through at Furnace Fest.
that's
Like,
incredible.
might be dope to do something like that.
I mean, it's not my favorite album from theirs. Messengers is better, but I can get behind
Constellations is
Constellations.
great.
It's
So
great.
it's great.
Messengers is better.
All right. Anything else?
No, I mean we ended it with the right take, so no one will argue with that at all.
Yeah, probably wrong. But all right, peace.
All right, Tip.